On June 1, 2026, Iran said some words. That's it. Nobody fired anything. No tanker went down, no pipeline exploded, not a single drop of oil actually stopped moving. They just threatened to block a strait. And within 24 hours, oil prices jumped 7%, and the gas in your tank got 30 cents more expensive. Let me say that again, because it deserves a moment of silence. A sentence, a threat, moved billions of dollars across the global economy. So either the entire oil market is run by extremely jumpy people, or there's some math underneath this that's quietly making decisions for all of us. Spoiler, it's the math. And the math is honestly a little scary. To understand why words can be worth billions, we have to talk about a concept economists named in the most uninspiring way possible: elasticity. Which sounds like a yoga retreat, but is actually one of the most powerful ideas in all of economics. Elasticity is just a ratio. It measures how much the quantity people buy changes when the price changes. Formally, it's the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Don't run away. It's simpler than your phone bill. Imagine luxury handbags. The price goes up 10%, and suddenly people decide that maybe their old bag is vintage now. Demand drops 20%. That's an elastic good. Buyers are flexible. They stretch, they snap back, they walk away. Picture a rubber band. Push on it and it gives. Now imagine gasoline. Price goes up 10%, and you still have to get to work tomorrow. You can't tell your boss, "Sorry, gas got pricey. I'll be teleporting in." Demand barely moves, maybe 1%. That's an inelastic good. Picture a brick wall. Push on it, and it just sits there judging you. So here's the spectrum. Rubber bands on one end, brick walls on the other. Handbags stretch. Gasoline is a brick wall with a steering wheel attached. And this single distinction, rubber band versus brick wall, is about to explain your entire gas bill. Now for the part that actually matters, the insight that makes this whole thing click. Why do inelastic markets overreact so violently? Let's draw the classic supply and demand picture. Price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal. Demand slopes down, higher prices, less buying. Supply slopes up. Where they cross is the price. Beautiful. Economics one good diagram. Now let's hit the market with a small supply shock. Supply shifts left just a little, meaning slightly less oil is available. With an elastic demand curve, the flat, lazy, rubber band one, the price barely budges. Maybe 2%. People just buy a little less and everyone moves on with their lives. But with an inelastic demand curve, the steep, stubborn brick wall, that same tiny supply shift sends the price rocketing. The price has to climb dramatically before people cut consumption even slightly, because, again, they physically cannot stop driving. So the same supply shock that nudged prices 2% in the flexible market launches them 20% in the rigid one. Read that again. Same shock. Same little leftward shift. 10 times the price reaction. The steeper the demand curve, the more violent the response. The market isn't panicking, it's just doing geometry on a brick wall. And which commodity sits at the absolute brick wall end of this spectrum? Oil? Congratulations, oil. You played yourself. The short-run price elasticity of gasoline demand is roughly -0.1 to -0.3. Translation: prices go up 10%, and consumption falls a measly 1 to 3%. That's it. Oil is one of the most inelastic major commodities on Earth. And the reason is beautifully, depressingly simple. You cannot substitute away from it. There's no "I'll just take the train instead" for most of America. Because for most of America the train is a rumor. There's no "I'll heat my house with vibes this winter." Your car runs on gasoline, your furnace runs on oil or gas, and the trucks bringing your groceries run on diesel. The entire physical infrastructure of modern life is bolted to oil. You're not a customer. You're a hostage with a loyalty card. So that's why prices can spike. But why did they spike on a threat? Nothing actually happened. And this is where we discover that oil prices aren't really about the present at all. Here's the thing nobody tells you. The price of oil today doesn't reflect what's happening today. It reflects what the market expects to happen tomorrow. Oil trades in futures markets, contracts to buy or sell oil later, and those prices are basically the market's best probability-weighted guess about the future. They're not reporting the weather. They're forecasting it. So let's do the actual forecast. The Strait of Hormuz carries about 20% of the world's oil. Suppose, after Iran's threat, Traders collectively figure there's a 30% chance the strait actually gets blocked. The expected supply loss is just probability times impact, 0.30 times 20%, which gives you a 6% expected reduction in global supply. Now feed that 6% expected shock into our steep, inelastic, brick wall demand curve. And what pops out the other end? A price jump of about 7%. The market did the math. It multiplied a probability by an impact, ran it through the geometry of an inelastic curve, and produced a number. That number was your 30 cents. Iran provided the words, arithmetic provided the rest. But wait, if the strait hasn't been blocked, why pay more now? Why not wait? This is where everyone screams speculators, and shakes their fist at the sky. And look, I get it. But let me explain why the speculators are, infuriatingly, being completely rational. Imagine you're a trader and you genuinely believe there's a real chance oil will be much more expensive next month. What do? You buy now, while it's cheap. So does everyone else with the same belief. All that future buying gets pulled into the present, and the price goes up today to reflect tomorrow's risk. This is called front-loading, and it's not gambling, it's discounting the future, the same math a bank uses on your mortgage. In fact, if traders didn't do this, you could make free money by buying cheap oil now and selling it dear later. And the iron law of arbitrage says free money cannot just sit on the table. So the market drags future expectations into the present price instantly. It looks like panic. It's actually a spreadsheet with a caffeine problem. Now, here's the part that should genuinely keep risk managers up at night. If oil prices behaved like a nice, polite bell curve, the normal distribution from your stats class, a 7% daily move would happen roughly once every few thousand years. A geological event, something you'd tell your grandchildren about. In reality, it happens several times per decade. Oil prices have what statisticians call fat tails. The extreme events at the edges of the distribution are dramatically more likely than the bell curve predicts. The technical term is excess kurtosis, which sounds like a skin condition but just means the tails are fat, the surprises are frequent, and anyone who modeled oil with a normal distribution has lost a great deal of money looking very confident the whole time. Picture the gentle bell curve laid over the actual distribution of daily oil moves. The middle looks similar, but out at the edges, the 7% days, the 10% days, the real distribution bulges way out past the bell. Those bulges are where fortunes are made, lost, and where your gas budget goes to die. So what does any of this mean for you? Standing at the pump, quietly seething? It means oil isn't special. Every inelastic market behaves exactly like this. Housing. You can't just relocate by tomorrow afternoon, so prices swing hard. Insulin. You cannot rationally decide to stop being diabetic, so demand is a brick wall, and we have all seen what happens to that price. Concert tickets. There is exactly one Taylor Swift, supply is fixed, demand is enormous and inflexible, and the resale prices reflect a market that has fully accepted its hostage status. So the next time you see a price spike on the news and think that is completely insane, pause and check the elasticity. Because if demand is inelastic, the math doesn't say the spike is insane. The math says the spike was inevitable. Let's recap. Elasticity measures how much buyers flex when prices change. Inelastic goods, gasoline, housing, insulin, barely flex, so even tiny supply shocks send prices flying. Futures prices reflect probability-weighted expectations, so a 30% chance of losing 20% of supply produces a real 6% shock today. Arbitrage front loads that into the present, and fat tails mean these violent moves happen far more often than any tidy bell curve predicts. Iran said some words. The math did the rest, and the math doesn't care if you think it's fair. If this helped the news make a little more sense, subscribe to Improper Integral for more math and science made visual, and maybe go check the elasticity before you get angry next time.